Hey everyone, it's Holmes from Homestorybooks, and I am here today to bring you an idea that I came up with my friend and I, Ariel, from She Wants the Diction. We were complaining about how queer and trans books only pop up around Pride, and we feel such pressure to read so many queer books when we really are queer all year. So here's this video. 12 books, one for each month of the year, 6 books I've read and loved and think you should read, and 6 books I'm looking forward to reading this year. I challenged myself and only chose books coming out in 2020, or at least they came out really recently. If you'd like to do a version of this video, please do. Let's get on with the list. The first book I'd love for you all to read this year is I'm Afraid of Men by Vivek Shraya. This book broke a reading slump for me. If my house was on fire, I'd grab this book before I left. I quote parts of this book with monotonous regularity. Queerness is associated with freedom from boundaries. Like, tattoo that on me, put that on my damn gravestone. How does she know me so well when we've never met? Her work is always praised for its rawness, but I think her skill really comes in the execution of her craft, her searing truths, her ability to lean into discomfort as a method for teaching, for compassion, and for solidarity. She takes really substantial systems like toxic masculinity, the patriarchy, and white supremacy and distills them down into these microtransactions that transform her life. You can't talk about breaking down oppressive systems without personal anecdotes because you would never understand that lived experience. But how does she take the performative nature of gender and race and sexism and celebrate herself in 96 pages? Anytime I pass this book on a shelf, I see its slim little spine, I feel something. Something is stirred in me. I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, this is such a heavy book, and that might be a bit off-putting, but her power really knows no bounds. So please read this book. This next book is another favorite of mine, and that is Jonny Appleseed by Joshua Whitehead. It is about a two-spirit indigiqueer person called Jonny, who is called back to his home after tragedy. It is bittersweet, sexy, playful, melancholy, and glittering. There are so many scenes from this book that I remember vividly. Jonny dancing in their jingle dress to their grandmother yelling at a man for telling Jonny what to wear during a sacred ceremony. It is unapologetic in its queerness and indigeneity. It doesn't shy away from slang you might not know. The words and prose dance across the page. The book feels like it's in constant motion. Reading it feels like a dream, except it's not because of so much blood, sweat, and other bodily fluids. Bright, vital, and delicious, writing this review just makes me want to reread it again. My next suggestion is A Quick and Easy Guide to They Them Pronouns by Archie, Bongiovanni, and Tristen Jimerson. The word of the year, as per Merriam-Webster for 2019, was they, so it felt perfect to include this slim little volume. Inspired by allyship and education, this book was written because Archie is non-binary and people in the workplace were struggling with their pronouns, their identity, and what that meant. Tristen, the co-creator of this comic, is a cisgender man and acts as the person who asks all the right and wrong questions along the way, supporting Archie in a very measurable way. My favorite section is the last section where Archie specifically speaks to trans and non-binary people. They talk about how it's okay to not come out sometimes, how to deal with misgendering, how hurtful that can be, and how to survive. It's a lovely addition because I don't actually know many allies who've read this book. Most people I know who've read this book are queer or trans. 2020 is the year of pronouns. Put them in your email signature, in your Instagram, Twitter, or YouTube bio, and please read this book because we are queer all year. You could read this in literally half an hour. It's so easy, so short, and meaningful. It really is the beginning to a beautiful adventure in allyship. Tomboy Survival Guide by Ivan Coyote. Every time I remember that I don't have this book, I'm surprised. Wow, I really don't have this book yet? Really? It is a series of vignettes about Ivan Coyote's life. These stories, memories, and anecdotes are thoughtful, tender, and compelling. Ivan Coyote is transmasculine and recounts the stories of their many firsts. The first time they were mistaken for a boy, their first kiss, that time that they tried to go swimming as a trans person and they weren't allowed to use the change room that reflected them best, This is a book that teaches you so much about stereotypes, gender identity, and social politics without being heavy, overbearing, or aggressive. It's gentle, like a cup of tea or a bath. It really is a revelation and melds love and allyship together so carefully with such artistry. I think this is Coyote's 10th or 11th book, and you can really tell there's something so accomplished about their work, how they tell their truth, and how easy this book was to read. The last book on this list before I get into what I want to read is Hurricane by Kacen Callender. I really wanted to include some middle grade on this list because of the way children's literature is going, because of the efforts made to include all types of people from different genders, identities, ethnicities, all the things. This is a book about Caroline, who lives on the Virgin Islands in the Caribbean and is searching for her mother, who left their family some time ago. She's bullied at her school by both students and teachers, but falls in love with a new student, Callender. The first 60 pages of this book are really tough to read. Caroline is going through it, but she's so precocious and has such a righteous anger and fury about her. I love her determination. It feels like Roald Dahl, but more realistic and raw. Caroline is a tempest born in a hurricane, and this book is just a triumph. She has such a spark about her that makes her character so well formed and so captivating to read. I love that kids these days have such wonderfully written books to read from. Now into the books I want to read. We Are Everywhere, Power, Protest, and Pride in the History of Queer Liberation by Leighton Brown and Matthew Raymer. I started reading this sometime last year and adored it, but it is a coffee table book, so finding the space, time, and sometimes even the physical strength to read it is a thing. It's a gorgeous photographic and historic exploration of queer activism and its roots. Both authors really do the work to identify not only who is in the photos, but who took the photographs, and these huge photographs really give it such color, life, and movement. Released in time for the 50th anniversary of the Stonewall riots, this is not just your run-of-the-mill queer history book, but really a tome celebrating everything from pride, family life, liberation, marches, protests, monumental legal decisions, and activists. When Brooklyn Was Queer by Hugh Ryan is very similar to We Are Everywhere in that it is a microhistory of Brooklyn's queer history from the 1850s to the Second World War and on. Often in the shadow of other queer neighborhoods like Manhattan and Greenwich Village, Ryan's book is all about tracing the neighborhood's queer roots. We've got a drag king from the 1800s, a gay man who is also a spy in the middle of a Nazi scandal, brothel owners, working class people, laborers, trans people, every kind of person living as queer people have always lived and always existed. Homie by Dennis Smith is their newest poetry collection coming out in 2020 from Grey Wolf Press. It has another name, but I'll call it Homie as instructed by the author. I read Don't Call Us Dead by them a few years ago and fell in love with their words. They are a non-binary, black, queer person and also HIV positive. So they have a wealth of experiences that make it hard to survive in a world that doesn't make space for them. But then they remember the love of their kin, their family, chosen or otherwise, and redemption, exhalation, and love come back to them through their poems. The back reads, part friendship diary, part bright elegy, part war cry. Homie is the exuberant new book written for Dennis and for Dennis's friends, and for you and for yours. I can't wait to read it. It sounds breathtaking, and I can't wait to see how Smith's poetry has transformed from one collection to the next. This Town Sleeps by Dennis E. Staples comes out in March from Counterpoint, and it is a multi-generational saga featuring a young Ojibwe man, Marion, and a Minnesotan town. There's closeted relationships, ghosts, both physical and metaphysical, family secrets, magical realism, and a possible curse, all set on a remote reservation. Overall, the reviews are positive, apart from one that says it's too much of a struggle story, which I understand, but I'm excited to read it anyways, and maybe discover a new favorite author. The Subtweet by Vivek Shraya. I gotta be honest with you, Vivek's new book was the only one I was really keeping my eye out for this year. Her body of work just grows and grows every year. It's incredible, considering she's a documentary maker, a singer, a performance artist, an author. Do I need to go on? So I only looked at the blurb just now, but it's about two women who are both musicians who become friends until a subtweet destroys everything they have together. Described as a love letter to brown women, The Peril of Visibility and a peek inside the music industry. It has a gorgeous cover, and I'm really excited to read a novel by her. It's a book by Vivek Shraya. I have to read it. The Subtweet comes out on April 7th, 2020 from ECW Press. Check Please, Volume 2, Sticks and Scorns by Ngozi Kwazu. This also comes out on April 7th, 2020 from First Second. I read the first volume of this last year, and it was one of my favorite books of last year, which was great because a lot of the books I read last year I enjoyed but didn't remember, or were just pretty okay. This is all about Eric Biddle, or Biddy, a gay man navigating his junior year in college playing hockey. I have a disability. I don't play hockey. I can't skate. But let me tell you, Ukazu makes me care about hockey. I care about scores and games and playoffs and all of those things because the characters in here are so well crafted. Everyone is flawed, believable, and all the characters have really great chemistry. Most of this book features lots of writing about men in college dorms with not a lot of toxic masculinity, which was great and refreshing, and it's such a good palate cleanser. I don't really want to talk about the plot of this book because I don't want to spoil anything, but I am so excited for this one. When I realized there was a second volume, I was so elated, and then I was like, no, it's not out until 2020. So I will be impatiently waiting for the next installment. So there you have it. Those are my 12 books that I recommend and look forward to so I can be queer all year, gay for all 365 days. Thank you to Ariel for chatting with me about this topic and making a video of her own. I'll link her video down below when it's up. What are your 12 books for a queer year? If you'd like to do this video as well, please let me know. I'd love to see it. Let's talk in the comments below. Bye everyone!